767.
Hey, to whoever's watching, sure many of you will later on. I will have a recording of this for later on YouTube just to run this down. But let's see. I wanted to show you guys the tile assembler. I had Claude program this with me because I needed something that would give me a isometric view of tiles. It took way too long for me to build my own isometrics. It would take about a week, just to design and all that stuff. So I had I inputted all my stuff and decided this is a much better way. You could do pretty much two things here. You can do isometric 16 tile or 47 tile. Isometrics in 47 tile works a little bit differently. It's not true isometric. It'll have those angles, but you can't really do too much with the 47 tiles. So while it's angular like this, it's not in isometric view. You could probably kind of fudge it a little bit, but it's not, doesn't work out that way. You could also just do regular top-down 47 tile, and it'll do that for you in both versions. I'm going to switch back to isometric just so I could show you how powerful this is. There is a surface and a cliff. You don't have to have a cliff side. Cliff sides really improve the just the depth of the tiles. I like having cliffs on a lot of things, but it's not necessary. For true isometrics, it's tile width is 64 and tile height 32, right? It's 1-2 ratio, 2-1 ratio, whatever it is. So that's true isometric. I don't really go by that. I just go by square. This looks good enough as well to me personally. So I just do that. Yeah. And for cliff sides, shouldn't really exceed a certain number. I think it's half of whatever the height is. And it'll be fine. When you start exceeding that number, you'll start getting clipping like that. You'll have flat spots, flat edges, unless, well, yeah, there is a variable in here for auto tile, but that only works with the 47 tiles. So you'll have to increase the height for your like 128 and 64 is good, and you'll see that it will rebuild it, but obviously they're going to be tall tiles. You're falling out of isometrics now, but this is good for like cliff edges, cliff faces. So it'll tile it up for you anyways. But anyway, 64 is good. If you like cliff edges, you could put in your pixel height for your cliff edge, and it'll give you that cliff edge. If you want to change the style of the face, the texture surface, you can. These are all like presets. They're not very good at all. Obviously, grass doesn't look like grass. It looks like crap. Until you like reduce the size, like 16 by 16, it'll probably look decent. Okay, like actual like actual like pixel graphic style right there, you know, but I work a lot of the majority of the time I work 64 by 64. So I don't yeah, there. And then you could also, like, there's a lot of the little options here, and I'll kind of run them down. So let's go back to cliff, and I'll add in a cliff because we need that. You don't have to rebuild. You could actually just adjust one of these. A couple of these will automatically rebuild everything, but I wanted to show you more of the texture stuff you could run through. And these are, like I said, these are all pre-generated, but then there's stuff I've generated myself. These are still pre-generated. Anything with a star is things I've generated, and they become extremely good textures. And I'll show you how you can do that. So like there's some dirt I've made, the sidewalk, and wet bricks. The bricks look really, really good. And I know that right now this is just face value right here, so we wanted to actually go to ground plane to project it onto the isometric, so it's all isometric view as well. And you could mirror these so they're, you know, flowing a different way, which is really, really handy. If you're not happy with the presets, which, you know, I wasn't, just go back to the custom designer and then click open the texture designer. This is where the power comes in. Massive, massive power here. I just have the preview on 128. You could have it 64. You just have to click this twice, you know, to get it back to the screen. And this is where things start to happen. I think you could reset to default somewhere around here. Let me see where it is. It might be down below, lower. Might be below this panel. I'll need to add a scroll so I could go back down. Let me see if I can bump this up so it makes it smaller. Yeah, there we go. Reset to defaults. Okay. A little little design flaw there, but whatever. Who cares? This outweighs everything that I've, you know, been using. Anyways, so like you'll have your base pattern, and you'll have noise, brick, scale. Scale looks really good, by the way. So scales, I'll have to go through that. You could have weave, or grid tiles. Now grid tiles is a little weird. It's essentially brick, except the offset is just, you know, one-on-one. But anyways, let's work with something like, I'll just go through noise first. You know, you could increase the contrast, decrease the contrast of it. I'll kind of keep it where it is so you could see the changes. The higher this is, the noisier it gets. The scale, you know, goes up. The lower it is, the scale goes down. The coarse weight, you could adjust a lot of different weights. The medium weight and the fine weight. You could do a lot, and you could see the live update here. And if this is too small for you, you can always, it should have already been, oops, up a little bit, but you could increase the size. There's a maximum until it starts clipping, and then it'll start kind of doing weird things. And you'll find that max after you click around. I think it's 125 is generally good. So anyways, you could play around with those. You could choose the colors, obviously, and it'll, you know, you can decide what is what. So you can change all the colors of it. That is really, really crazy. Crazy bright. Maybe not as red. You could make all sorts of different kinds of patterns here. Lava, you know, you can go there if you want to put in some kind of weird orange thing. And then you could start playing around with these weights as well, and it'll change how it looks, which is really interesting. So this preview, you're like, wow, it looks really good on the preview, but it doesn't look like that on this. It's because it's on the ground plane. If you want to flat screen it, then it'll project that on there. It's up to you which way you want to go on that. I'll show you some other really, really great things about this. So that's noise. You could go into detail and you can start putting in other things like cells. You can have a band that it's like a very subtle banding. You could have blotches go in, cracks start showing through. These are a little bit nuanced, so you have to like really bring up the scale and the thickness. But the cracks are generally really nuanced. You could have a speckle. Those are also like dust and just really, really tiny speckles. You can increase the size. I didn't have it very big because, you could see you don't really need much. The wear, grain amount, this changes kind of the feel for it. The dirt, that's kind of an overlay. You could choose the color of the dirt. Edge wear, scratch. You could have scratches on there. This is good for glass, things like that. This is kind of where it goes. So it goes more three-dimensional. So I'm going to turn off some of the speckle stuff and cracks and all that. Blotches, cracks, bands. So okay, so light. You hit the bump relief and you'll start seeing that it's like embossed almost. And then you can really play around with the lighting. Ambient occlusion, and then when you start rotating this or sliding this, you'll see that light starts to kind of rotate around certain areas. Like that. Yes, this comes with all the material previews, and yes, you could use those, you could export those, and I'll show you how powerful that is. You could hue shift it. So if you want something else, find a green, and you could have a forest instead of lava. Right there. Desaturate it. Maybe darken it up a little bit. Now you have a forest texture. You could posterize it, so there's only a few colors. 8-bit to SNES colors. Posterize it. Here's your maps. You got your roughness base. So if it's shiny or dull, let's leave it at 5 so I could show you on Blender what happens. You could vary this shyness. You could invert it. This is mainly for a DX and OpenGL. And then you've got your normal strengths. This is for your normals. Bump it up to about halfway. You can also animate this. I'll show that right now actually. So I'll just click this animate loop, check it, and it'll start animating. This isn't really implemented in GameMaker. You can't have a animated tile AutoTile. There might be an option for code if you code it, but so far I haven't really seen an option. Anyways, you could change the morph of that and it'll do a little bit of a thinking here, and it'll start animating it. And so it's not very big, but you know, the morph rate changes how it animates, which direction, the flow. If you only want it to go a certain way, it'll go a certain way. Like swaying right there. Bump it all the way up, see what happens. Yeah. I guess 1 does nothing. 2 is the good sway there. And you could have it go one direction, bounce back and forth. You can do all sorts of stuff. As you can see, I'm gonna turn that off. That's just kind of experimental. It's something for you to see. You could also blend another preset with something. So like you got bricks and this foresty looking texture, right? Change the scale so the bricks are smaller or bigger. I'm going to go back to color and go back down to my lava. Because this is going to get interesting. Okay, and then, I mean, you could explore with brick and scale. Scales is really awesome. I love scales. I use a lot of that. Brick is also really cool. It looks really good when you start adjusting and playing with it. But we're going to just maintain with this for now. So I've got a good texture here. You can export this like this. If you're not happy with it, you could mirror it. You could mirror the cliff. Things start to really happen with these adjustments. The cliff darken. This is just basically how much of the cliff is going to get darkened. So if you leave it at 1, it's not going to auto do it unless I click like another. Here, let me see if like one of these there, it'll kind of auto update. I think it will. Yeah. Or 0 or 30, I guess. You can see the difference. So at 30, it'll darken it way up. Just a regular cliff, right? Edge rim, it's at 0.6, 1.6. Let's bump it down to 1. And what that does is on the edge here, there's a rim. It'll give you a glow. It's very subtle. But it'll kind of just give you a slight glow. Surface relief. Messes with the surface. Relief lighting. You can adjust those, play around with those. If you have giant, big changes, you'll see it. Contact shade. I'm going to get this darken cliff back up to 1. So if you notice on the cliff side, right here, now it's kind of all just the same, but with the contact shade, it just starts shading it, a gradient shade over that. So you can, see the difference between what is cliff and what is flat surface. And then how deep you want it to go. You can take it all the way to 32. And it'll gradiate it all the way to that much. It should be as far as the cliff height. Edge noise. This is an interesting one. At 0, all of your edges are straight. You got straight isometrics going. You also have corner roundness, so this is what it really actually looks like, a true isometrics. I don't think this does anything without. But true isometrics, you don't have any corners, you don't have anything, you just have square, you just have these hard angles. So when you start putting in these corners and start rounding it out, you could start rounding out your corners so they're a little bit softer. And then you could also increase the edge noise 4. And you know, whoops, broken tile seamless. Things start to happen with that. You could do a different seed, and your lines here will change, right? So you'll have a little bit more jitter, I guess, wiggle. Broken tiles and seamless, two different things going on. I had a bug and that made the broken tiles look like they were just busted up tiles, and it was kind of cool, so I kept it. And then I just have the seamless so they all line up on the seam, which is nice. This is for 47. You could do screen flat or ground plane. And this only applies to your surface, not your cliff. You could mirror, like I think I've said before, showed before, mirror your cliff and your surface. Strip columns. This will just set how many columns there are of the strip. This is 8 by 2, so I'll show you that later. And of course, animating. You could also decal stuff, like grass. All over the floor. You could choose the gradient of the grass. So like this goes to bright green, and you'll start seeing that difference. You could choose where it is. Anywhere. Only on the low spots. This is where the normals come in. Only on the mid spots. Only on the high spots. Right, mid spot looks pretty good. But your grass has a lot of different things going on. There's the density, how tall it is, and sorry, the size is how big, so how wide it is, right? And then how tall. And then you have options. You can overhang it, automatic, no, which cuts it off at the tile. Yes, which some of it appears, but I like overhang personally because it just hangs over those top tiles, keeps growing. It'll cut off right here on each tile, so you gotta, because it's this is the center tile. I could probably have it so it, if it reaches up here, it'll start growing from the bottom. That's a good idea, actually. I should do that. Anyways, that's currently not implemented, but it is cool. So, around here is good. You could also jitter size varies. So this, you increase that, and your size will vary from tile to tile. So right now here you have a lot of the same because it's all the same tile, but on different tiles it's all different. How ragged something is, so how wavy it is. It can be straight or wavy, just how ragged. Decrease that. I like low spots on the grass, and interior will only do the interior. It'll stay away from those edges. You could also just do the edge band, so it only grows out on the edges. It only fills in for that. So if you notice, there's nothing on that center tile, if you know how auto tiling works. So this is really nice. I like the grass. There's puddles and other things too you could check out. You could also just choose a custom PNG and play with that as well. Auto highs and auto lows. You could choose which highs you want, or it'll select it for you based on the colors that you chose. And keep inside is an important one because it'll keep it inside the tile. So like any floor, you won't have those cut off spots. So it'll kind of symmetricize everything. It'll keep it inside the tile. which is a nice thing to have. Different seeds of the same thing. Really handy. Right, so what if you don't want, you know, to have the decals with the tiles? That's not a problem. You could export just the decals. You could export that alone. Export decal layer only. So you'll just export the grass. You could paint on later. So you could export PNG strip just like that. And let me get to a temporary. Right here. It's just my TS ISO 16. It'll automatically name it whatever tile you have. This is going to export with the grass. I'm going to disable this layer, and the next thing I'm going to show you is material maps. At least nope, that's the tile. Let me see. Swatches. Sorry about that. Swatches. So I have it at 256. Hope you don't hear that vacuum, but it's okay. Right now I have it at 256 by 256. This right here is a very powerful tool. You export those swatches. I'm going to put it in a new file right here. And it's going to give me 5. Let me get to it. I'll show you. That's going to give me 5 for each. So I have the cliff and the surface. The surface is really small. It's just the exact like size, but the cliff is what I usually use, and I'll show you how to use those in a second. You could export this strip, which here's the strip right here. That's what it looks like. And this is what I'm going to insert into GameMaker right now. Import. This strip right here. Yep. So here it is. Imports it really cleanly. And you just set your grid and it's all in order. Auto tiling. Create a new little guy and just start clicking away in order. Awesome. And your last one could be this one or a blank tile. Doesn't really matter. So now you have your auto tile. I'm going to go to this room and create a new tile layer. Sure, yeah. Set a tile. Tile set 1. Go to your room editor, libraries, auto tile, as you guys know, and here's your auto tile. And that's it. That's all it takes. And it's all in isometric view. And you could do, you could also add to this, of course, by placing another tile down below. So let's go with 1-on-1, 1-to-1. Now it'll export it this way. And if you notice, the naming changes top down. It's not ISO anymore. So you're not overwriting your stuff. Right, there's that. I'm just going to drag it here. There's the top down. Yep. I like to grid it so I know what I'm doing here. And just paste the new one in on the bottom. Boom. We should be aligned and everything. right? This stays the same because I didn't change the width, and I could add another one. AutoTile 2 could be named something else later, but you just fill them all in. Just like that. You go to your room, got your AutoTile 2, and this is the top-down version of what we were working on instead of the isometric. Same kind of deal with the 47 tile deal. Close these off. So here's that. Decal works the same way. Instead of having all these tiles with it, it's just the tiles of the decals. Just the same way. Very easy. Very easy to do. Just like that. Okay, so that's really, really powerful tool. You can change the size of how it exports, what everything does. I do want to work on the grass, so when it grows, it just comes from the bottom, so it just tessellates that way. The next part I'm going to show you is having to do with Blender. I just new file, new material, and I just kind of set up the normal map with the multiply. I'll be plugging in a couple of things here, displacement, all that stuff, because that's what we exported. And so let's do that. All 5 of these, I'm going to go ahead and just put them in there. So the albedo goes in the A. Your ambient occlusion should be set to no color, by the way, no color, non-color. B, and you could start to see it appear. We could change it to, well, I don't think I have a light that's worth anything. But here's, here you're going to start seeing stuff. That's the normals. That's the height map and roughness. Normal and roughness. The height map goes into your non-color, color, normal. Just like that. It goes into displacement. Okay, and then the rest is going to go up a little higher. Oh, whoops. I think I put that in the wrong thing. It's supposed to go into color. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, I did that wrong. The normal map is supposed to go into normal. The normal stuff is supposed to go into normal. Yeah, we got this. Roughness, normal. Okay. Roughness, also non-color. Everything else is non-color. The only thing that should be a color is the albedo. Okay, and non-color, your normal. Boom. And you have your texture in a 3D model, whatever you made. You could export it in a higher resolution if you want, but here it is. Your darks are down here. Your roughness, so how shiny it is, it's all there. Right, your high spots, all that. I don't really have a light on this, but you could see it on there as well. How does it look in cycles? Good question. Let's change it to cycles. Yeah, you could do a bump also. You could change this to bump map with experimental. Should have been on GPU compute. All that stuff. So it works with both. So that's a really powerful tool because of that. You have everything available to you to create a material ready to go. Just place it onto your object, and I think that's pretty cool. Smart unwrap it, so it'll change, but it's now per panel kind of thing, but not really. But now it's it's got a UV map at least to go off of, but you got a good preview of it. you change the, as you guys know, you could change, if you're into Blender, you could change the size of this and the ratio and all that stuff. And I could go through that later, but this is the powerhouse of this tool, is you could use it in Blender, or at least you could make textures for Blender, and it's all there for you, right? So that's the tool, and if you guys are interested in it, let me know, comments, or go to my Discord, and yeah, I'll provide it. It's free of charge. It's for you to mess with and check out, and the variants is another thing. You could export variants, very slight. So like you'll export in a variant, and it'll change how the lines are structured a little bit, how they're wavy or not, and you can select how many variants you want, up to 8. I mean, I could probably make this unlimited, but who would want more than that? But you can't really, in AutoTile, you can't really have variants, so you just make one, and you could have, I don't know, variants for different stages or something like that. But it'll all it is just slight seeds of something, and you could choose which variant you want, texture, edge, or decal, or all. Decal layer only, animated sheet. So this will export an animated sheet of your animation, basically, of the animated tile set. I want to change that to an animated sprite, because GameMaker does support animated sprites, tile animation. You just have to, add that animation, however many frames there are, and it's very select on it. So 8 is probably good because we have 8 tiles across, and then you just select which animation you want, right? So if I have, this base one, animate, that would be good, right? So delete that. That would be nice. You can set the FPS. So I think I'll convert it to that, because originally it was just animate the whole thing, but it's unsupported in GameMaker, which would be cool if it was, but it's not. So little lava bubbles would be cool, things like that. So export material maps, when you click that, it'll actually export these guys right here, the whole layout, the whole map of each one. So that one is kind of like, it's up to you to use if you want to use it in a different thing. But I like the texture patch swatches are the best. You could also unlit and lit. So for PBR, check that one if you prefer that. Let's see. I don't know if I think everything here is, I went over it. You could choose custom swatches. So if you have a material you want to work with, choose it. Cliff swatches as well. So if you already have a material, go ahead. So border inset, I do kind of want to go through with some of this stuff here, so you could see the changes. So when you have a border inset, it actually does nothing. Let me see. Yeah, you could kind of start seeing a slight change when it gets higher up, but it just insets these a little bit further. Let's go with 0 to see what happens. Yeah, there you have it. Now you have, if you saw the difference there. So 1. Yeah, it's not very big, but there is a difference. Corner roundness, of course, you already saw that. Very nice. Auto fit tile height and width. So if I have this off, it'll just automatically, it'll set, whatever you have. But when you have this on, rebuild, things will change. So my cliff height is to 32, which is half of this, which will equal to 64 on the height. But what if I only wanted a cliff height of 8? Right? It'll rebuild. It'll give me a different dimension, and it'll automatically give me a different, size. If you don't like that, you could uncheck this, go back to 64, and it'll rebuild it for you like that. I guess I didn't realize that was an automatic. Maybe, because I accidentally scrolled on this. Yeah, broken tiles kind of just give those jagged edges seamless, combine, has it all together. This is kind of a weird setting. I don't like it because it's deceiving. If you notice up here, not everything is filled in, and they should be square because you're doing isometrics on a square surface. So this kind of you could build this kind of layout, but you have to do it manually. This does not work with AutoTile, so that's why I keep this on. This is for manual if you want to just manually place, sprites. That's cool, but this is how we have to do it. Oops. Yep. What's interesting is this doesn't really give too much of a difference until I change. Well, I guess not really even. So that's nice. Oh, that's seamless. Oops. Screen flat and ground plane. So it'll kind of convert it into isometric view as well. That's what that's for. But if things aren't working, it's because it's not an isometric tile stuff. It only works on 16 tile. You got your ground plane and stuff. So anyways, play around. The texture designer is really, really, really powerful. This is where the money is, especially when you start getting into scales and stuff. And why it's called scales is because when you start to play around with the roundness of stuff, it actually starts looking more like scales. And so I really like this texture. Change how many scales there are. Like that. On the bricks, you could have an offset. Won't have it here, but on the bricks it will. Sometimes things line up too well, so you have to offset the down a little bit so it offsets here. Just how it goes, I guess. So here's the offset. You can go all the way 0, 0, and it'll be in rows or offset. Mortar width. Which is cool. Start doing cool things with that. Bevel levels. You can make some pretty cool bricks. Brick variation is really neat. Varies, brick by brick, which is neato. Let me see where the preview zoom. Let's go to 3. This is low because it's at 32 by 32. Might be able to kick this up a little bit so you can see a little more. When you start getting higher up, then things get kind of weird, but it's okay. But you can change the scale, I like to keep it right around that 125 area and just increase this. That way you have that nice thing going on here, and you have the highlights too. You know, it's cool. It's neat. Anyways, tell me what you think. I did use Claude. Claude helped me a lot with this. So, you know, if AI is good for anything, it's coding, and I support that. Just check the code, make sure it's not injecting anything weird. You know, if you know Python and stuff like that. So far, I've only found that it tries to leave notes that's on it for itself. That's on the front face, which is odd, and a lot of it is nonsensical, and so I just delete that usually, because it doesn't speak the same kind of language we do. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean. Okay, but otherwise, that's it. That's what I got. Again, reach out to my Discord or message me, leave a comment if you want this. I'll leave a Discord in comments